Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to start our meeting. Mr. Clerk, could you please take roll call?
Dave Abdallah.
Here.
Bill Bazzi.
Here.
Robert Constant.
Here.
Lisa Hicks Clayton.
Here.
Denise Malinowski Maxwell.
Here.
Ray Muscat is absent. Tom Wenzel.
Here.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Tonight, I'd like to have Travis Baker lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. First item, we have agenda approval.
Madam Chair.
Councilwoman Hicks Clayton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Move to approve order of business February 25th, 2020, regular meeting of Dearborn Heights City Council as presented.
Okay,
Support.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to have to back up. I'm sorry. I forgot there is a revised agenda that I didn't have. At this time, after Pledge of Allegiance, we have the Michigan State Police presentation. Could you please come up to the microphone? Up here? Thank you, and I apologize. I didn't have the updated agenda.
Yes. So, good evening, everyone. To the City Council, Mr. Mayor, and to all of the citizens here from Dearborn Heights. Good evening. It's good to be here. One of the reason why we're here tonight, to my understanding, is because last week, Councilwoman Tlaib and Councilwoman Dingle held a town hall in reference to some of the flooding that's experienced here in the city of Dearborn Heights. And during that meeting right there, some questions were raised as to FEMA grants and the actual usage of the FEMA grants, and those FEMA mitigation grants would be to purchase residences along that area so that those citizens could find relief with the purchasing of those residences and then to move into a different location. And the mayor, Mr. Mayor, you had brought up some changes or some requests that you were asking of FEMA. And so one of the things that I did in speaking with some of the council members here was to make sure that we brought down our subject matter expert from the Michigan State Police Emergency Management Homeland Security Division, Mr. Matt Stepp, that can speak to exactly any questions that you might have in regards to the mitigation grant. Mr. Stepp.
Hello, I really didn't have a presentation prepared. I came prepared to answer questions that you may have about the grant. We do have one grant that is nearly complete. We're just dealing with the administrative actions to finalize reimbursements on that and close that grant out. There's an additional grant, 2016 pre-disaster mitigation grant to acquire 9 houses in the floodplain. The original performance period on that grant expired in August of 19. We helped the city obtain a 1-year extension, so that grant is good until August 30th of 2020. There is a possibility of an additional extension for up to 1 year. The city would have to request that 60 days prior to the period of performance closeout, and then that grant or that request would have to go to FEMA headquarters for approval. The first extension that we got was just to the FEMA regional office in Chicago. A second extension receives more scrutiny, and so that would have to go to FEMA headquarters for approval. But we would be happy to help the city through that extension process. We would love to see the grant implemented. We've provided assistance throughout the grant process and would love to continue to do so, and we'd like to see the grant implemented.
Okay. Councilman Abdallah?
So, Mayor, I spoke with you, I know, by phone, so it's good
Yes.
to put a face with Dave Abdallah. I'm sorry, I spoke with you at the time.
Sure.
So a couple of questions I asked you at the time, and I just want to do this just right now so that the public is aware. For clarification, the grant is still available and still available until August, you mentioned last time, and I know you just mentioned again today, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, one of the issues that was brought up at a couple different council meetings, as most of us as council members asked, why could this not be given to the residents? And one of the comments that was given to us is that it was not a good idea for the homeowners because there would be some closing costs involved. And I'm a realtor by trade, so right away I went, the closing costs would be almost nothing, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. So I can't see any homeowner that would not want to take that particular grant. Later on, at the last meeting, we were presented with the fact that The closing costs specifically would mean any type of money that a resident has already received from FEMA would be subtracted from the total amount that they are given. So let's start with that. Can you give us a little clarification on that before I continue?
Sure. What you're talking about is what we call duplication of benefits.
Okay.
So when there's a declared disaster and somebody has flood insurance through the National Flood Insurance Program, or if they receive assistance through FEMA's Individual Assistance Program, if they receive money from the federal government to make repairs to the home and they didn't make those repairs, and the home was appraised in pre-flood condition, that's one option for appraising the houses, then that appraisal essentially would ignore the damage. So they would have received money to repair the home, not have repaired the home, and then the home was appraised as though it didn't have those damages, so they would essentially get paid for those damages twice in that way. So when that situation occurs, that the amount of the assistance that they receive has to be deducted from the purchase price.
And it's and it's deducted from the price without how much is on that appraisal? How much is flooding taken into account?
The fact that the home is in the floodplain is factored in.
Well, we're not talking about, if it's in a flood zone, it would be worth a little less. We're talking about, like, for example, the homes, I know you're not going to be familiar with the particular homes, but for example, the homes on Hanover, which a lot of the residents are aware of, those particular homes had major problems, especially right there near the creek. So in the appraisal, what would you guys base it on? Standard open market value like you would have if it was not near that creek? Or
so first off, we don't appraise it.
Okay.
The city hires an appraiser, a licensed appraiser, to appraise it as they would any other home. The difference would be if you're appraising in pre-flood condition, they would ignore damage to the home that the flood caused.
The reason I'm bringing this up, because I cannot see in my mind, well, let's start with, I believe personally, the homeowner should decide. Even if they're getting at the end of the day, hypothetically, $8,000.
Well, can I interrupt you there?
Yes.
First, there's two ways to appraise the homes. So in the first grant, that funding was available because a disaster was declared, and in that case, the houses were appraised in pre-flood condition. And it made sense because there was just a disaster. The other option is to appraise the homes in current market value. So you just appraise the home as it is, which would be more appropriate probably for this grant. And then the duplication of benefits is not a factor.
The question that we had, whatever the residents were paid, if it was 10, 20, 30, or whatever there's $1,000. In my mind, I just could not see why we as a city would turn something like this down if it's coming, as a grant, and then leave it up to the homeowners to make that decision whether they're willing to take less based on whatever money they had been prepaid. And if they've already done the work, then they would be paid the full amount. If they have not done the work, that would be subtracted from the total amount you're going to give them. Is that correct?
That's correct. And again, the reason would be that if they elected, and it's perfect, it's their prerogative, if they received that money to repair the home and they chose not to make those repairs and just keep that money, they can do that. They just can't receive it twice by the home also being
and you would
appraised
subtract it from the total amount.
Yes.
I'm whatever way we can to bring this thing back forward. And if it has to start with the administration, then I'm going to be totally in favor and pushing for that. And if it has to start with you guys, then I'm telling you right now, I'm in favor of pushing for that. And the fact that you gave us until August 2020 is great. Thank you.
I got a question too. Is there any cost to extend it the extra year to 2021?
It's the city's project to administer. So in my experience, buying 9 houses, demolishing them, and restoring the sites between now and the end of August would be a pretty tight window. So I personally would think that an extension would be warranted.
So is there any cost to the city itself?
Oh, is there any cost? I'm
Yes.
sorry. No, there's not a cost.
Do we have to pay a fee?
No.
Okay.
I thought you said cause. My mistake.
Okay. Sorry.
And also, if I can just add in there as well, one of the things that we would do as a state police is that I'm your district coordinator down here. I'm the liaison back to the State Emergency Operations Center and to the governor's office. And so therefore, if you were to request that second extension, as Mr. Schnepp just explained, that's the one that doesn't just go to our regional in Chicago, it has to go back to Washington. So the wording on that is very important because we have to have a justification There was one extension given already to August of 2020. Now we're asking for a second extension. So we have to be real careful about how we word this to make sure that it gets looked at and it gets approved. So we would definitely be coming in to assist with making that request for an additional extension.
Perfect,
Through
perfect.
the chair.
Councilman Bazey,
Well, it dovetails with that.
you need to be acknowledged. And Councilman Bazey's next.
Okay, so, well, thank you. First, I'd like to thank you guys for being here today. We appreciate it. One of the things I want to clarify, the second grant that we're talking about, obviously it was approved before most of us been on the council. So there hasn't been any discussion with the current council that we're going to cancel this grant. Until it was mentioned by the administration just last meeting or maybe the meeting before. But our intention is not to cancel it. It's not up to the administration, it's not up to us, it's up to the residents. Because, you know, we keep getting calls from residents. They want that money, they want to get out of their homes, you know, the ones that are affected by the flood. So I just want to be clear. So if you guys hear anything else, it's not. That's not the fact. The fact is the residents want the money. They want the grant. Second question, my question is on the previous grant. You mentioned that it's still in administrative mode. It hasn't been closed yet, right? I mean, we're still.
That's correct.
Okay. How can we get the actual what was submitted to the state in appraisals? And the reason why I'm asking that question is I went through the documents that were submitted. Initially, it was on a website, and when we asked a question a few times about certain things, all of a sudden it disappeared from the website. And I don't care what anybody says. It says, no, it's not. I have a copy right here. I printed it where it says it's not active. So it's not even on our website. It was removed. So luckily, we printed it. So we went through some of it. That's why we wanted to actually look at what was actually submitted, and we'd like to see what appraisals were submitted to the state or to FEMA. And the reason why we like to see that again is because we were told, you know, I mean, some of the folks that I've talked to, some of the residents that were paid, they got paid an X amount. And when I looked at what was actually submitted, it was a much higher amount. So we'd like to find out what was actually submitted to you guys and what appraisal was submitted. Because again, we were told, again, on another note, there were several appraisals were done on any particular homes. And I looked at some of the appraisals, talked to somebody who's an expert in appraisals, and some of the, at least 2 or 3 that I looked at, it does not make sense the way they appraise certain homes.
Yeah, I have to piggyback on that. I checked in BSNA and it said one amount, but there was another amount on your website stating that you paid more than what the resident actually was paid, and sometimes it was up to $100,000 difference.
We don't have anything on our website about your grant, so.
Okay. Well, the individual addresses, it showed what they were paid, and I just wondered if that was accurate.
I can't speak to that because that wouldn't be on our website.
Yeah, that wouldn't be from the state. The state police, we don't make public information for you and your citizens here in Dearborn Heights. The information that's contained with any personal information, whether it's appraisal, home, the house, the address, or anything, that stays with you. We don't make that visible for Oak Park or Dearborn Heights, you know, I mean, or Grosse Pointe or anybody else to be able to see. Same thing with them. Their information is specific to them. So any documentation that we have, though, because it's your residence, it's your city, we definitely could, whatever documentation we have, we'll be able to provide that for you.
That would be perfect.
But it's the city's grant. The city hired those appraisals. The city is required to maintain that file for audit purposes for 3 years beyond closeout of the grant. So the city has that information as well.
Okay, I'm just trying to verify if it's correct or if
The
there's...
documentation that we have, that's no problem.
Yeah, and I would like to point out it looked like an application budget that you held up there. At the time of application, the amount that's budgeted for those homes is typically based on some formula like 2 times the state equalized value or something. That's the city's estimate. It's not based on appraisal at that time, it's just an estimate. So then when it gets submitted, once FEMA approves it, then the city has an actual appraisal done, and that's what the purchases
Okay, that's
are
why I
based
wanted to
on.
clarify. Okay, well,
So we'd
great.
like to see, I'm sorry, so we'd like to see what was actually the final copy, what was submitted, what was given to the residents, what was reported to be given to the residents versus what was actually, what was given from the state or from FEMA to the city. Again, just for transparency, a lot of residents are asking those questions, and us as city council members, we need those things answered so we can intelligently answer our residents when they ask that question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you
Mayor?
recognize him? Thank you. Dovetailing in the question about the extension, should I work to file an extension now?
My advice would be, because the second extension requires a little more scrutiny, and you have until 60 days prior to the end of the performance period, I would advise the city to make some progress on that grant between now and that 60-day window.
Okay.
And then that would bolster the request for an extension. You can say, see, we've completed these tasks, we're this far down the path, and this much closer to completing the project.
Okay. And I gave you a copy of a letter, and we had some discussion before in response to it, so I'm going to push forward. The other question I have is I don't think there are any training classes in regards to the rules on this, or am I mistaken? Because I want to have one person present this and talk to the residents, and so I know that it's the right information and they're dealing with everything. So in that regards, I was going to have the person that conducted the first grant, but what do you recommend in order to make sure we get the right information out?
So FEMA does offer a class for implementing these grants. I can't tell you the name of that offhand, and I don't know when it's next available, but through the Emergency Management Institute,
Okay.
FEMA has a hazard mitigation grant implementation class, so that would be one option. We have staff in my office that are there for technical assistance to the city. We have sent them down on monitoring visits a couple of times to meet with staff here, and we're always willing to do that.
Okay. So that would be two suggestions. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Councilman Constant?
Thank you. We heard at the presentation from somebody else, I think from FEMA, that typically the payments from FEMA to the homeowner are like from $3,500 to $5,000. Does that sound about right for homes in our south end of Dearborn Heights that are like $100,000, $125,000?
Are you talking about recovery assistance after there's a disaster?
Flood insurance.
Right, because you said that's then so that the homeowner doesn't get paid twice.
So there's two.
So that wouldn't be a large amount of money is what I'm saying.
Well, there's two main factors. The National Flood Insurance Program is also run through FEMA. So if a homeowner has a policy for flood insurance, that could cover up to $250,000 in damage. So if they had extensive damage and received flood insurance proceeds, to repair that extensive damage, it could be, many thousands of dollars. So that would be one duplication. What I think you're probably talking about is individual assistance. That's when a homeowner doesn't have insurance, and FEMA declares that recovery grant program, then an individual could apply for assistance through there, and that would be a much smaller amount typically.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Abdullah?
So the amounts that he's referencing there, they referenced the amount of either $2,500 all the way up to, it was either $4,000 or $5,000. And then there was another fund, the maximum they said they would pay would be $35,000. And that's where I'm coming back with any homeowner in that area, knowing that if they put their home on the market to the open market, would be extremely difficult to be able to sell it. Obviously, they got to get flood insurance, and not to mention, well, it's extremely difficult to sell it, obviously, based on all the things that have been happening there as far as flooding. So in my case, in my opinion, I cannot see any homeowner that would not knock off whatever they've already been paid and take whatever's left, cut their losses short, and move on. But nevertheless, either way, though, it should be up to the homeowner. So with everybody here today, we've got the federal government here, we've got us, I believe us as a council, we're all in agreement on this, I believe, based on our conversations, and administration's here. Is there any reason that you can see or the administration can see as to why this thing cannot be put back and move forward and get the residents and give the residents the option of walking away and getting whatever money they can get? Does anybody here have any objection?
Well,
Because this is the time to do it.
If I may, when you say put back, just to make clarification.
It's
We never
still
took
there.
it. We never took it. It's always been there.
No, I realize that. But we may need, Matt mentioned it, we may need an extension.
Correct.
Like I said, again, now we're backtracking from 2 meetings ago, which you were not here. We were told that more than likely, this is not a good policy for the residents. More than likely, the residents are not going to want it. They got costs that they got to pay. I myself, and a lot of us here just did not honestly see the same thing. So I'd like to see that move forward again. And based on all parties being here, and based on the fact that it's public, is there anybody here that has any objection to this thing moving forward? And if not, then let's go ahead and move forward.
I guess at this time, Mayor, we're going to authorize you to extend this grant on behalf of City Council's request.
I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway, whether, I think there's a consensus, so we're going to go ahead and do it.
Well, considering it was almost canceled a few weeks ago, that I want to make it publicly known that City Council is authorizing you to extend this grant.
Madam Chair,
Councilwoman Hicks
do you need a
Clayton?
vote because that's a legislative action?
Okay, all those in favor?
I'll make a motion.
We need a motion.
I'll make the motion to extend it.
Second.
Second, okay.
Official.
Motion made by Councilman Bazey, seconded by Hicks Clayton. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes, so we are authorizing the mayor to extend that grant.
Thank you.
Is there any further, is there any public questions in regards to this?
Hearing Yankee is something.
Question. If we got
Because there's,
our insurance money and we repaired our home, then we wouldn't take that loss if we sold our home, correct? Correct. Because we did the repairs.
That's correct, and I want to clarify, again, there are 2 ways that the home can be appraised. And in the first grant, the pre-event market value was used, and when that's the case, then yes, what you just described is exactly true. If the home is appraised in current market value, then you don't have to show that you did those repairs. It's a non-factor, and since that disaster was almost 5 years ago now, it would be more...
We had another one a few months back.
Right, but that one doesn't factor in to, yes, so...
That one wasn't declared a disaster, correct?
That's correct. So current market value in all likelihood is more appropriate in this case. The city asked in 2018 to use current market value for these appraisals, and FEMA approved that. So the duplication of benefits that you're asking about is not a...
It doesn't even apply.
Right.
No.
Council Chair, if I may.
Corporate Counsel?
Thank you. Just to confirm that, though, because that's something that you've mentioned about 2 or 3 times, and I want to make sure that everyone has a clear notion of what that means in terms of the appraisals. Are the appraisals likely to be significantly lower now that you're going to end up using the current amount, or are they likely to be about the same as they were, comparable to what they were in the previous grant?
I'm not an appraiser and not familiar with the real estate market here. What would be typically most appropriate in this situation several years out from the most recent disaster would be to use current market value.
Which would be pre-flood, is that or would that be after flood?
Current market value is going out and appraise the home in its current condition right now today.
So presumably that would be lower then?
And again, we can't really speak to that because let's say 7 years ago, the market value, because of the economy, was down.
Okay.
That'd be pre-flood.
Right.
Now, let's say the economy is better. So even though you're in a flooded situation with your residents, the market value of your home could be higher than it was pre-flood.
So it's gonna-
hard, that would be a question that we don't have that subject matter expertise to speak to.
So the appraisers would have to end up
Yes, sir.
taking those factors into account. So there could be some fluctuation between what it was previously and what it would be now.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Kind of a dovetail on that.
Can you be recognized, please?
Can I get recognized?
Okay, Mayor, go ahead.
One of the questions, because I did have one resident who objected to the appraisal, and she went out and challenged it, in fact, won. It was the only one that I'm aware of that did that. Can a resident argue that rather than current value, I want to try pre-flood value and as an alternative?
No, so the federal requirements are that everybody be treated equally.
Okay.
So all of the homes have to be appraised in the same way. Now, if somebody doesn't like when the city submits the appraisal to the state, we also hire an appraiser to review that appraisal. We don't have that expertise on staff, so we hire an appraiser to tell us if it's a valid appraisal or not. And then, so they're going to come back to us and tell us if they see problems with the appraisal or not. There were a few in the first grant where they had problems with it, so we asked the city to address those problems with your appraiser. They were addressed. Then the other option is the homeowner, if they don't agree with that appraisal, they can have their own appraisal done, and the city can submit the city's appraisal, the homeowner's appraisal, and we will provide those both to our appraiser.
But it's one methodology for everybody.
It's one methodology for everybody, correct?
Okay, Councilman Wenzel?
Just to clear this up, when the city's awarded a grant for X amount, they don't receive that whole amount. It's up to the city to present you with the appraisals and the buyout money, and then they submit that to you not to exceed that amount of the grant?
Well, so these grants are reimbursement-based. The city provides us reimbursement requests throughout the grant process. There's cost for appraisals, there's cost for closing and actually purchasing the house, there's cost for demolition. So the money doesn't get all passed through at once. FEMA puts it in an account that the state has access to. When the city submits us documentation that you've incurred costs, or in a case where you have a closing scheduled and you have a known amount that the city needs to bring to the table at closing, submit that to us, and then the state treasury provides the money to the city. So it's a continuous basis throughout the grant period.
And there's you don't provide any estimates on the house. It's up to the city to provide those to you, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Abdullah?
So I just wanted to point out to you, you mentioned that on those appraisals, you have somebody else look them over, and I know you're not an expert in that field, and I respect that. But just something to point out to you, what was happening a lot with a lot of those old appraisals, a lot of times there would be properties that would be what they call distress sales. And distress sales would be a short sale or a bank foreclosure. Those are consistently going to be, obviously, needless to say, way less than what's normal for the market value. So if you want to be on the lookout for something, be on the lookout to make sure that there is no what they call distressed properties in those appraisals, because that will drive the price down, and then at the end of the day, the homeowner's losing money because their home's being compared to a foreclosure property, which is a distressed property, which is automatically going to be 20, 30, 40, maybe even 50% less than what's normal for the market if it's a short sale or a foreclosure, bank foreclosure.
We need to bring you on up there to help us.
Well, and again, the original appraisal is the city's. So, the city's hiring the appraiser. I would advise the city to point those things out to your appraiser as they do that. Two other clarifications that I want to make. There was talk about the closing costs and not being able to include those, and that's an eligible grant cost, so I'm not sure why the closing costs would be considered something that can't be included. Property taxes, however, cannot be included.
Right.
I've fought this battle with FEMA. I disagree wholeheartedly with FEMA on that, but it's just a flat no that property taxes cannot be included. So closing fees, closing costs can be included, but the property taxes cannot.
Okay, one last time, Councilman Bazey.
Okay, you mentioned The grant, okay, how much of the grant has been paid to the city, if any, has it been paid yet to the city?
On the previous grant?
I'm sorry, yeah, the previous grant.
I don't know the numbers offhand. Yes, some of it has been. I came prepared more to talk about the current grant, so I didn't.
If I call, can I get that number, sir?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. And does anyone from the audience want to come up and ask a question?
No.
Come on up, please.
I think I've been
You
talking.
asked me if I got waiters? You asked me if I got waiters?
Will it matter where you live? Because we live on Hanover. Hanover is a very well-known flood area. That's what I'm scared about, what everybody's talking about. When they come to, you know, hey, do you want this money? And they look at where I live. Because Channel 2, Channel 4, Channel 7, they're always on my block. Always. So it's like we're labeled, and I'll never get off of Hanover Street, because we're very well known. And another thing, you said something about 9 houses, whatever.
So
Who picks the 9 houses and
the current
for you to
grant.
come on Hanover?
Okay, let him answer. Let him answer.
So the current grant was applied for 9 specific houses. That's the way these grants work. They're not an open grant to purchase anybody that, you know, signs up for it later. The city goes through a process to apply for the grant and includes the specific homes. So there's 9 identified houses in this current grant.
Already?
Already, yes.
And do we know where they
Do
are?
we know who, yeah, do we know who they are?
That was the city's grant application that picked those houses.
So the state police, we don't come through and pick the residences. That's done by the city.
So does the city know We who need they to are? answer that We'd like to know what area you're going to.
Mayor, would you know exactly which houses they are?
I don't off the top of my head, no.
I have the grant file here, I could tell you.
Okay, excuse me, point of order. Let the gentleman tell us.
Try not to drop this.
Find out.
Point of order. Sit down, please.
So there are 2 on Hanover Street, 24028, 24036. The other 7 are on Courier, 24045, 24077, 24095, 24111, 24127, 24323, 24339. But
Okay.
I'll also point out that annually there are grants available to apply for through these programs. So if the city would like to pursue additional grants to acquire houses.
That would be an option we would like to look at.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep, so we will put that in whenever FEMA opens an application period, we at State Police put the information out through the emergency management programs to work with the cities within their jurisdiction to apply for grants. So the next opportunity will probably be late summer, early fall when I expect the next grant to open.
Okay. Do you have any business cards you could leave with me?
Yes.
I'd appreciate it. Okay, is there any further questions from the audience? I've got 2 people here, then we're going to continue on with our meeting. The lady in the back has been here for a while wanting to ask. Go ahead.
So it's my understanding that the homes have already been decided upon. So what is the delay if you know what home that you selected? And that was a requirement for the grant. So you had to know those homes ahead of time. And I'm also wondering, like, how long have you known the homes you selected?
The grant application was submitted in the 2016 application cycle. So that probably, I'd have to look it up, but it probably would have been in January of 2017 when it was submitted. It was likely approved somewhere around the fall of 2017.
That's really like
Okay.
work. I know when you're doing a work, you want to be thorough and you definitely want quality work. However, if you know the thing about the homes that you've already selected, you should be able to proceed whether it's needed. And you don't want to jeopardize our credibility in the process. I understand you guys got to work on some teamwork. That's okay. But you got to be able to prioritize and remember who's on first. There should not even be us here.
Correct.
If I understand, maybe I misunderstood.
Okay, thank you. Now, we have this lady up here, and that's the last question we'll take. Go ahead, please.
How were these houses chosen? What made these specific houses be chosen?
Mayor, would you like to answer that?
The person that lives on Hanover, we have no clue. Are we getting an offer? Should I rebuild again and again, or should I just paint the cinder block? I mean,
Okay, let me ask Mayor, what was the criteria to decide on the certain homes that you did?
I did not personally select them. I let staff do it, but criteria, excuse me, criteria.
Point of order, please. Quiet,
Criteria
please.
would
Let him
be,
speak.
we know where there is continuous flooding incidents. I know of one of the homes. I don't know the particular people, but I still remember very vividly one man who had alongside his wall flood mark and then a date. And so he had 9. And from visual appearance, when I talked to the staff, I said, let's target for those homes where if you look at the creek level and where it sits and where the home is existing. So I asked them to concentrate. If you come off Telegraph in those 2 streets, it dips. And I suggested that they look at those particular homes where in dry weather, the homes are above the creek, but it doesn't take very much, maybe an inch of rain, and right away the homes are lower than the creek, and water is going to seek its own level. So that was the criteria that I directed to the staff in picking those particular homes. But there are more than 9 homes, I will concede, that have that situation. So we could probably end up replacing like 20 or 25 of those homes because that situation is very evident. And that's where the water first comes on Hanover and Courier. And sometimes, like the fire departments had to come in with boats if there's an emergency call because of the fact that it doesn't take very much for the creek to overflow. And so that was the criteria.
Okay, before we go any further, I'm going to ask everybody, please turn off their cell phones. I don't want to hear them ringing. And one more, at this point, I'm going to say as council chair, and I'm sure council agrees with me, if there are any more grants available out there to buy up more properties, we will support it. At this point in time, I know I will, and I'm sure I speak for most of us, that we will. So now that we know and we're aware that they are coming, we'll keep an eye for them too.
Council Chair?
Council Chair.
Councilman Abdallah?
So just quickly, Mr. Mayor, maybe on the next budget, I personally would strongly recommend, since there's so much grants out there, that we look into hiring a grant writer that can consistently look for different grants available to us at the federal level, not only for this, but for a lot of things, a lot of departments that we have out there. And obviously, I know that's a very specialized field that not anybody can do. I can't do, I can tell you that much. So most people cannot do it. It's a highly trained, highly specialized field. I would strongly suggest that in your next budget that you include some sort of a grant writer for us to hire to get different funds for the city.
Okay, Councilman.
I'd like to recommend that if there's monies left over in this current grant, to add some more houses to it. Because it seems like the current grant's pretty high, and I don't think 9 houses would cover that current grant.
So the regulations don't allow that. We advise when you do submit an application, you put a couple of extra properties in because these acquisitions are voluntary. So if people decide that it's not the right situation for them to sell now and they decide not to participate, then you have a couple of other homes ready to go. But
Okay,
yeah,
thank you for clarifying that. I'm only going to allow one more person, and then we're going to move on. You've already, gentlemen, and that's it.
$1 million. I just want to suggest that the person who took those properties must be at least an engineer or architect who knows what he's doing or she's doing. So I recommend that the building director be in charge of picking those properties based on worst situation. Which ones are the worst? Those are the ones we should move forward with. Then we move to the ones which are least damaged. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, at this point, we're going to move on with the meeting. Thank you, gentlemen. Please make sure you leave your information with me, or... Okay, next we will move on. Next item on the agenda is agenda approval.
Madam Chair,
Councilman Abdullah.
I move that we approve the minutes from February 11th, 2020, regular meeting of the Dearborn Heights City Council as outlined in item 4A.
You said agenda approval.
Did you say agenda, Madam Chair?
Agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Agenda or
I jumped
minutes? Are you want to go backwards and do the agenda again, Madam Chair?
The what?
You want to do the agenda again, correct?
It's actually, it was revised and I knew it.
Let's do it
Is that
again
what you're
because we
looking
went
for?
back in and we didn't go forward. So we're doing the agenda approval.
Madam Chair. Yeah, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Thank you.
Supported by Councilwoman Hicks
Well,
Clayton.
that was a minute, so there's an incorrect motion because that was for the minutes. Okay, so I will move to approve the agenda, order of business, February 25th, 2020, regular meeting of Dearborn Heights City Council.
Would you like to second
Support.
it? Support by Councilman Abdullah. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair,
Councilman Bazey?
again, I don't know why item 44 and 45 are still on the agenda. I thought you specifically asked for it to come back in a resolution to approve the contract or the bid before we put it back on here to pay the invoices.
Yes, I did ask for a procedure to be followed. Mayor, is it possible you could submit the bill for submit approval for your attorney and then come back the next meeting after that and submit for your attorney fees? Because that is our procedure, and we're going to ask you to do that.
Repeat it, I don't understand.
Okay, this is in the charter. If you come before, you need to come before us to have your attorney approved, just like we had to approve ours, and then come back and ask for us you submit the fees, and then we approve them. That's what we're going to ask you to do, and at this point, I think we're going to pull this off the agenda.
I think you're being you're just trying to make it so I can't get my attorney.
Well, no, it's protocol. You must be approved before spending money like that, and it must be approved by City Council.
Did you read Mr. Miyake's email to you?
Councilwoman Hicks Clayton, please.
Thank you. Madam Chair, if our current corporate attorney, Gary Miyake, can approve these, is that what you're trying to tell us?
No.
No, I
But
said
my
that the
question
mayor
is-
can do so.
Well, this is my question, though, is I want to know who approves $600 an hour, because I would never approve that for an attorney. And that's what they're charging here. And I think your rate, all due respect, is what, $140?
That's correct.
So why would we approve $600 an hour with all due respect? I would like to see them get paid, go through the procedure. I don't want to hold them
Well, let's
up.
go through the procedure
That's
so we can get them
$600 an
paid,
hour.
and then we
I want
can...
to approve that.
But it is now in a court of appeals, and Mr. Knappman was a lot lower than your current attorney.
Okay, at this point,
So you cut me
please
off.
be recognized. You're not being recognized, and you're not going to speak unless you ask to be recognized. This is a city council meeting, and that's procedure.
Speak up, Mayor, let us hear what you said.
I'm sorry,
You said it's a
point of
clown
order.
meeting.
It's what?
You said it's a clown meeting.
Oh.
What?
It's a clown meeting.
Oh,
I'm sorry, this is a city council meeting.
it's not appropriate.
Yeah.
All due respect.
Okay, at this time, let's move on. Do we want to pull those items off the agenda and refer it back to the mayor to follow procedure as we've done for the last couple of meetings, according to our charter? He must come to city council and ask for approval, and then come back the next meeting, and he can submit his attorney fees. It's not that hard. We could have already been through this had he followed procedure a couple months ago.
Madam Chair?
Councilman Constant?
But to take it off the current claims, shouldn't we, then when somebody moves for current claims, not to
We can do it during the current claim.
44, 45?
Yeah, let's do that.
We
That
have to
might
be
be easier.
approving the revised agenda. Nobody said revised, because...
Okay. How do you want to do it?
It doesn't matter to me.
Okay, at this
I mean,
point, we'll keep the
normally-
agenda approval as it is.
Yeah.
Any further discussion?
Did we add on there the state police, just so that?
Oh, the state police were in the
It's
revised
already
one.
Revised it into, okay.
Yeah, because see, I didn't have the revised in front of me either, and that's how I messed it up.
By email.
Yeah,
No, I get
we've
it.
gone
Just
through
making
that.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because everybody
is there any further discussion in regards to the agenda
So,
approval?
Madam Chair, we're removing 2 items then.
Okay, we're going to remove it over under number 6, because that's more appropriate where we need to do it, under fund transfers and current claims. Okay, at this time, is there any further discussion on the agenda approval? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Next, we have approval of minutes. This is minutes from the regular meeting of February 11th, 2020.
Madam Chair,
Councilman Abdullah?
I move that we approve the minutes from February 11th, 2020, regular meeting of the Dearborn Heights City Council as outlined in item 4A.
Support.
Supported by Councilman Constant. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Next, we have public hearing and comment on agenda items only. These are items that are on today's agenda, and you have 2 minutes. Come up to the microphone, state your name.
My name is Stephen Esty, 39577 Woodward Avenue. I'm with Dykema here representing Verizon Wireless. I want to comment briefly on the agenda item to amend Article 37, or Chapter 37 of your ordinance, which is up for discussion tonight, I think, on first reading. We have been meeting with various communities as industry participants throughout the state relative to FCC Order 18-133 and the Michigan Small Wireless Communications Facilities Deployment Act. The purpose of those meetings has really been just to inform the communities and make sure that we're giving input into the various ordinances and materials that they're approving relative to compliance with the Act. We did have an opportunity to do that here with regard to the ordinance back in October of 2019. We did not have an opportunity, however, to talk about the forms that are going to be specifically attached to that ordinance. And I understand, I just learned yesterday that this is up tonight and that there are some of those forms attached to the ordinance. The concern I have is that the forms, which include the terms and conditions, the license permit, and the addendum to license, that we have not had an opportunity to provide input. And I think it's important that those both be consistent with the ordinance and in compliance with state and federal law. And so what we'd like to do is, after this meeting, submit to your council, and I've spoken to your council, our comments as an industry participant before it is heard for second reading or adopted by the community. So I just wanted to convey those thoughts on behalf of Verizon and myself, and
Thank you. Any other discussion on current agenda items? Please step to the microphone, your name, and you have 2 minutes.
Good evening, Zahra Pat, 354 Rosemary. I want to talk about fund transfer. I urge the council, please, to look at those amounts, why they are amendment right now in fund transfers. Before you approve anything, please ask why this money and these amounts being there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public hearing and comment on agenda items? Okay, let's move on. We have fund transfers and current claims.
Madam Chair.
Councilman Constant?
I move that fund transfers and current claims number 61 through 645 be approved.
No, I'm not seconding it because it's not a
Okay,
motion.
there's no second, it fails.
Madam Chair.
Councilwoman Hicks Clayton?
Move to approve current claims 61 through 643 as submitted.
Support.
Supported by Councilman Bazey. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Next, we have, no, we don't want to. Reports from the mayor. There's the Running Fit Annual Martian Marathon, Saturday, April 18th.
Madam Chair?
Sorry, discussion.
Are we going to do discussion on the fund transfers?
Oh, all right, yes, I'm sorry. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair.
Councilman Abdullah?
So I had a couple different items on 612. And this question's for John, our director, John Selmy, if you don't mind. On this one, it could be just clerical, but I just want to make sure. Everything on the front says this is for February 2020, and then throughout it says February, but then the billing period says April 1st, 2019, and I know there's no way it could have been billed that far back. Is that possible, or why is there something from 2019?
If I could maybe defer to the treasurer, I think this is a SRF loan payment that was associated with DUA.
Do you know about this, John, or do you want me to?
Treasurer?
The Downriver Utility Wastewater Authority got SRF funding for major projects at the plant, and this is Dearborn Heights' share of the bond payment, principal and interest.
No, I'm aware of that, but what I'm asking, Mr. Mayor, is why do we have on there a billing period of April 1st, 2019? And it's on the second page under invoice. Because I know we've been paying that on a regular basis.
My speculation is that it's due April 1 of April 20, and it's a one-year payment.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine, thank you. Second question, 620, I think that's already been addressed and answered, but let me just make sure. 620, well, that was answered actually by our controller, but just for clarification, this is in regards to the lease termination of mail equipment, but we got that cleared up with the controller on it, that's what I thought, so we're all good on that. 644 and 45, we've already addressed that, and that's taken off, so I won't go there. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Councilman Bazey?
Item 627 and 628, I know Councilman Muscat brought that up already. I know it was answered, there was a typo, but I mean, it'd be nice if the mayor can look at these and make sure before he signs them that they're correct. There was two different invoices, and it looked like they just changed the amount, so.
Okay, is there?
One more.
Okay, Councilman Bazey, go ahead, please.
638, what is the settlement investigation on 638? It says Fire Station HQ Settlement Investigation Invoice.
Yep, so there's some settlement happening within the fire station headquarters, and we had reached out to Wade Trim. I believe this council approved that. This is to do some soil borings with a subcontractor to determine what is causing the building to not settle, but apparently heave. So those are what those bills are for. So we're investigating what the cause is to find a solution to make a permanent fix.
Thank you. While you're up there, Director, 641 for $21,553.55. We're paying for somebody to tell us that the roads need repair, or what is that? I know we keep seeing these over and over.
These are the
local street
construction.
resurfacing construction.
I'll let Dan speak to it.
$641.
641?
Yes.
That's the design services for the road construction this year, getting the plans together.
For which streets? I mean, we've seen a bunch of them.
Oh,
come
for
up.
which streets? It's Charlesworth from Ford Road to Warren, Gully from Hass to Richardson, Fenton from Hass to Richardson, and then Annapolis from Monroe to Harding.
Okay, but why is the city paying a company to tell us that we need repair? I mean, if the road needs repair.
No, we're putting the specifications together to go out for bids.
We're doing the designs.
We're doing the design.
Okay.
Okay, any further discussion? At this time, we'll take a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it.
Thank you.
Next, under reports from mayor, we have Running Fit Annual Martian Marathon, Saturday, April 18th, 2020.
Madam Chair.
Councilwoman Hicks Clayton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Move to approve and grant permission for the annual Martian Marathon on Saturday, April 18th, 2020, commencing at 6:15 a.m. Police Chief Michael Petrie and Fire Chief Dave Brogan have approved the route and will provide any services they may require as outlined in 8A.
Supported by Councilman Bazey. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair?
Councilman Abdullah.
I had a question for our Recreation Director on this one. The Martian, I thought I seen him here earlier. There he is, okay. The Martian Marathon, I know, is a pretty big event, and this is held primarily in Dearborn, but obviously we're a part of it. But I'm just wondering, since we are a part of it physically, as far as roads, I rarely hear much promotion of this thing to where it could be also a very good Dearborn Heights event and good publicity for our city. A, do you have any plans of incorporating that? And if not, why not?
I have not had any plans. Nobody has contacted me, and it was this was the first that I heard that it was coming this year. So I can reach out to whoever's in charge. I'll reach out to the Parks and Recreation Director of Dearborn and see what type of things they have, and maybe we can help out and duplicate.
Because it's in the papers, it's on the news. There's over.
I know about it. I've actually not participated, but volunteered to help in it before.
Thank you.
Don't do this to me. Because there's over 7,000 runners doing this thing, and they're going to be all going through our city, not to mention all the different other people involved with the logistics. So it'd just be really good for us, with the new direction we're going as a recreation department, to do some sort of promotion about our city.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Next, we have reports from city officials. This is the Assessor's Office, Kimberly Comer, 2020 Poverty Exemption Policy and Guidelines.
Madam Chair?
Councilman Abdullah.
I move we concur with the Assessor's Office, Kimberly Comer. They'd like to present us with the following updated documents to the honor to us for review and approval. And this is for the Assistance and Assessing Department have updated the requirements for the City of Dearborn Heights 2020 Poverty Exemption Policy and Guidelines, and they put a copy in here. And upon our favorable approval for the proposed 2020 Poverty Exemption Policy and Guidelines, the Assessing Department will then make these forms available for taxpayers as of March 1st, as outlined in item 9A.
Support.
Supported by Councilman Constant. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair?
Councilman Abdullah.
So I spoke with Kimberly Comer on this. One of the things that is a positive for a lot of our residents is the federal poverty guidelines. For us, we use about 15% over and above the federal, so which is good. We give more homeowners more of a break, when they need it on the taxes. The only other change on this, the primary other change is now they are requiring a credit report before they make that decision. So just wanted to point it out, and it does meet the legalese as far as guidelines is concerned. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Next, we have Comptroller Vance, Budget Amendment, Corporate Fund.
Madam Chair.
Councilwoman Hicks Clayton.
Madam Chair, I would like to move this item to a study session because I believe there are questions on the transfer of these funds. I mean, we're talking a couple $1 million. And I do believe that the department heads would submit a request to the administration, to the mayor, with an explanation. And the council is not being privy to those explanations to understand why these transfers are occurring in the amounts that they are.
Okay.
That's my
Supported by Councilman Bazey. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair, if I might.
Mayor?
The big transfer, and I think he's in the audience, but when he was a state senator, Commissioner Knizek got us a $2 million grant. And that's the big item in here. Of the $2,598,000, it's the grant that he was able to get in legislation before he left. Most of this money has already been spent. The council has agreed. What this allows is the recording of the revenue to offset the expenditures. The other item I think of noteworthy is the fact that there was a motion made by the council at the last minute when the budget was approved to take money out of overtime and put it in for the hiring of more police officers. And all communities, ours included, is having a great amount of difficulty hiring police officers. There just isn't, there's more positions open in Metro Detroit than there are applicants. And we've talked about it internally. We are not going to reduce our criteria, and we are hiring good police and firemen. But the fact of the matter is that about, I think it's 400 or 550,000 of this represents that. So you take those two, and that's the bulk of the transfer.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Councilor Abdullah?
So I have a bunch of questions on this, so we could either take this to a study session or we
We've
start
already
doing this
agreed to,
right now.
yeah, we need to stop now because we've already agreed to go to a study session. Would you like to schedule it next Tuesday at 5?
Yes, please.
Let's do that then. That way we can get all our, we can move on because we've already agreed to a study session.
Yeah, I
It's
know,
not
I
gonna
agree,
happen.
but because he opened it up, so I just
Okay. All those in favor of study session?
Support.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, study session next Tuesday at 5 p.m. Okay, next item on the agenda is DPW Director Selmy, authorization for budget transfer and equipment purchase.
Madam Chair.
Councilman Abdullah.
I move that we concur with Director of Public Works, John Selmy, seeking approval for the budget transfer in amount of $25,000 from an account on this document for road supply to another account in capital outlay, and if approved, the department is seeking approval to purchase and approve payment upon receipt of one 4-ton Falcon asphalt recycler and hot box trailer in the amount of $23,563.74. And this purchase is out of the MI bid pricing is outlined in item 9C.
Support.
Support by Councilman Constant. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Councilman Abdullah?
We first?
Go ahead.
You made the motion.
So for the, there he is. Okay. So I want to ask why this was being moved from road supply to capital outlay, considering this is definitely for the roads, number one. And I know I talked to you earlier, and you mentioned, we didn't have one of these before, and you mentioned some of the advantages of having this equipment, which I'm in favor of. But if you don't mind, if you could re-explain that again, please. Thank you.
So I had to ask, the mayor, about managing to the bottom line inside our budget line. So there's some money right now in the road supply that I was asking to transfer over the capital supply to buy this hot box. So the hot box basically is for, typically you see guys doing cold patch. They're out of the back of a dump truck. It's cold, it's frozen, and it's just flopping into holes, right? This piece of equipment actually reheats the product up to 120 degrees. So when we go out there to do this type of work, it's a more of effective type of temporary patch, if you will.
Okay, thank
Our
you.
roads will be improving, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I mentioned you're going to be the next governor, you said, or not
No,
yet?
sir.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Bazey?
So for item 9C, is there a reason why it wasn't added to 9B since we're moving?
So 9C is the next agenda item?
Yeah.
Yeah, so 9C are coming out of two different funds. One is 15's coming out of water and 15's coming out of capital, less than 10,000 out of the highway budget.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Next, we have DPW Director Selmy, authorization to purchase communication systems.
Madam Chair.
Councilman Abdullah.
I move that we concur with Director of Public Works, John Selmy, seeking approval to purchase 2 sets of team communication systems and authorized payment upon receipt. The total cost is $3,000, of which $1,500 will be charged to an account as outlined here. Capital, less $10,000, and the other $1,500 will be charged to another account. Water and sewer supplies as outlined in item 9D.
Support.
Support by Councilman Bazey. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you.
Next we have Fire Chief Brogan, permission to purchase StairPro 6252.
Madam Chair,
Councilman Constant.
I move that we concur with our Fire Chief Dave Brogan and authorize the purchase of the Stryker Stairmaster Pro at a cost of $7,228 as outlined in 9E from capital outlay.
Supported by Councilman Abdullah. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Next, we have Tax Increment Finance Authority, also known as TIFA. Chairman Kellett, June 30th, 2019, TIFA Audit Report.
Madam Chair,
Councilman Constant.
I move that we receive, note, and file the Tax Increment Finance Authority Audit Report from the TIFA Chairman, John Kellett, as outlined in 9F.
Support.
Supported by Councilman Abdullah. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair,
Mayor?
was there any management letter items?
The TIFA members are here.
I don't know.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
I don't understand the question.
Is there any management letter items?
One of the items, if you recall, when the city gets its report, is the report, and then there's an additional letter that suggests whether or not there are internal controls and other suggestions, and that's not been made part of this. I was just wondering if there were any.
Coming from TIFA, you mean?
No, coming from the auditors.
Yep.
The auditor would submit it with this, like they do the city audit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not this.
This is a report, that's not an audit.
It is an audit.
Well,
It doesn't have like findings or...
It is an audit.
It's an audit report.
And it's
though.
got an opinion letter. I know as a CPA
They
what
do
an
have
audit
it.
is, and a letter of opinion. I'm just wondering if there were other comments.
There are notes in the back on the financial statements.
That's not what I'm talking
That's not
about.
what you're referring to.
I'll ask independently.
I did speak with Plant Moran and went through some of the numbers, and specifically Martin is who I spoke with. Martin, he's gonna kill me, I can't pronounce his last name, but.
Kojink.
Yeah, Martin O is what I call him. But anyways, I did speak with him, and we went over some of the numbers, and they were all pretty good. And there was even a little bit about over 300,000 some left. So it all seemed to be pretty balanced. But I understand where if that's
I'll
you know
inquire
better.
with the TIFA director independently.
He's right behind you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to try to stump you. I didn't see the audience.
That's good. Yeah, no, I didn't look at what you got in your packets, but I just forwarded the entire packet from Plant Moran. Yeah, it has their letter on the cover, and then also the management's discussion and analysis. Is that what you're looking for?
No, if there are suggestions of internal control and stuff, they issue that in a separate letter.
Yeah, that's everything we got.
Okay, good answer.
Suggestions.
Thank you.
They didn't issue it.
Madam Chair.
Okay. Is there any further, Councilman Constant?
Tom, so as far as you know, there was no recommendations, changes, or other than what's contained here on the first page? Can you double check with?
I'll double check with them, yeah. We'd take our direction from them, so we'll double check with them. They haven't given us any other direction. We've been working with them, actually, a couple of years ago. I discussed with you about, I mentioned the council, we're kind of getting more in line with how the city does their budgeting and whatnot, so we're in sync with them.
All right, great, thank you.
Councilman Abdullah?
So I don't know if our council is going to answer this or the mayor. So just for clarification, we cannot vote on this as of yet, is what you're saying?
No, you
per
can.
auditing rules, or?
No, you can vote and accept, you should vote to accept it. I just wondered if they had gotten any recommendations for internal controls, and apparently they did not. Sometimes in the past they have, so they're doing everything well over there, and so I'm satisfied.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Councilman Bazey's opposed. It passes. Next, under ordinances and resolution, DPW Director Salmi, second reading of ordinance H-20-01, amendment to Chapter 35, Water and Sewer.
Madam Chair.
Councilwoman Hicks Clayton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would move that this be considered read for the second time, ordinance H-20-01, amendment to Chapter 35, Water and Sewer, and consider effective upon publication.
Support.
Support by Councilman Abdullah. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Next, we have a first reading of Ordinance H-20-02, Amendment to Chapter 37, Small Cell Wireless Communication Facilities.
Madam Chair,
Councilman Constant.
I move that proposed ordinance H-20-02 regarding small cell wireless communication facilities be considered read for the first time.
Support.
Supported by Councilman Abdullah. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair.
Councilwoman Hicks
The
Clayton.
only question I have, and I agree with being read for the first time, but providing an opportunity to the gentleman that came up to the podium earlier and spoke from Verizon for that impact in particular on some of those forms that are in the back. I'd like to make sure they get that opportunity if possible.
Sure.
Can-
Yes.
Sure, go ahead.
I did have a conversation with the representative, and we met with them in preparing the ordinance, just to make sure we had all the terminology consistent with the industry. He mentioned this evening that there was some issues with the forms. I just want to make sure you're aware, tonight's strictly dealing with the ordinance, and I did confirm with them they had really no issues with the ordinance itself, so that can move forward. I will be speaking with them about some of the issues they were concerned about with the forms, which are going to be the forms used to support the implementation of the ordinance. We'll iron those out, and if there's a need, we'll submit revised forms for the second read. That will have no impact on the ordinance itself, however.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Council Chair.
Council?
Yeah, Mark, if I could. Does this need to go back to the Planning Commission again or not?
No, the Planning Commission did have a public hearing on the ordinance itself and made a recommendation to council. I believe that's consistent with, frankly, going to the Planning Commission was a very conservative approach. There are some aspects of the ordinance that arguably impact land use. If an ordinance impacts land use, it needs to go before the Planning Commission for a review and recommendation public hearing under the Zoning Enabling Acts. This is not an amendment to the zoning ordinance. However, because it did have some impact on land use, we recommended, just to be conservative on it, that it go to the Planning Commission. I don't believe there's been no change to the ordinance since that hearing. I believe you can use the same recommendation.
Oh, great,
Okay,
thanks.
thank you.
Madam Chair.
Councilman Constant?
And Mark, so this will give us, the city, a little more control over placement of, for example, Verizon's devices in the city, correct?
I don't want to oversell this, frankly. The city does have very little control over actual placement. The state did carve out a little bit of local control in certain areas, primarily the residential zones. You will have some input on where those locations can be made, and if there's an issue specifically with a particular property owner, we can address that with Verizon or whoever the provider is proposing to install, and we'll work with them to find an alternate location.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Next, we have 11C, and per Councilman Muscat, we're going to be removing that because it's already been resolved. That was for a charitable gaming license for a certain individual, and it's already been taken care of, so we are going to remove that. Next item on the agenda is new business. This is business license renewal for Quartz Collision located at 27100 Van Born.
Madam Chair,
Councilman Abdullah?
I move that we approve the renewal of the business license for Cordy's Collision located at 27100 Van Born, Dearborn Heights, as outlined in item 13A.
Support.
Supported by Councilman Constant. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Next, we have comments from council members. I agreed to give our clerk, Walter Pershevitz, first dibs.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just briefly, folks, we're 2 weeks away from the election. If you've applied for an absentee ballot and haven't gotten it, as I have been saying throughout the meetings, please call us immediately, 791-3432. Time is running short. If you want to get an absentee ballot, I advise you, if at all possible, come into City Hall, get it personally. The mail tells us that it's 3 to 5 days for first-class delivery. That doesn't leave us a lot of turnaround time, us sending you the ballot or sending you the application, you filling out the application, sending it back, so forth. That turnaround time is not there anymore. For our voters in precinct, I always advise our voters if there's changes in precinct 11 and 12 Canfield Center, we will be going back, at least this election, to the previous setup where everybody will be in the gymnasium. As you are walking in, precinct 11 will be to the left and precinct 12 will be to the right. In precinct 16 and 17, Berwyn, you are normally towards the south end of Berwyn in 2 small rooms for this election. 16 and 17 will be in the cafeteria. Precinct 19, Robichaud. For this election, you will be on the stage. We were there a couple elections ago. In August, Robichaud has school. They have graciously given us the use of their stage. So your entrance will be 1 door west of where you usually enter the building. Precinct 25, Annapolis, will be using the gym. So your entrance will be north. I'm not exactly sure the cross streets there, but and Annapolis, right by the gym. Clippard? Thank you very much. So those are the changes in the voting precincts. Please get out and vote. March 10th, polls will be open 7 to 8 p.m. Additionally, on the Saturday before the election, March 6th, whatever the Saturday is, I'm sorry, the date escapes me, we will be open.
7th.
The 7th, we will be open from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. to service our voters. That is voting related only on that date. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair.
Councilwoman Hicks Clayton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had 4 points. First one, I'll be really brief. Thank you to everyone, our residents who attended the Ecorse Creek Town Hall meeting, as well as the Army Corps of Engineers and FEMA, the 2 Congresswomen, Debbie Dingell, Rashida Tlaib, as well as State Senator Betty Jean Alexander, our Commissioner, David Knizik, good to see you. You were there as well. Thank you for your support, as well as the mayor and all the council members that were there. I think this was a great stepping point where residents were able to, one, get updates and information and see a timeline, as well as have a forum to have their voices heard on a very important issue that I don't believe has happened in this community. I couldn't tell you when, so I'm very excited about that, and thank you to everyone. I have a few questions, though, real quick. This weekend, there was a lot of chatter on social media. We either love it or we hate it. I'm okay with it because I think it's a great way to hear from our residents. But and I had addressed this, must have been Monday, but I would like to see, and I did send an email to the mayor, the ordinance truck was seen in Livonia on a Saturday night. It was around 7 p.m. and pictures were taken and posted, and I said, well, let's find out what happened and see I believe in giving people the benefit of the doubt. But again, Saturday night at 7, I don't know if that's an on-call going to Livonia when we have a target here in Dearborn Heights, but I'm wondering, because I did not get an answer, if somebody might, for transparency's sake, share with us, for our residents, to tell us a little bit about that.
Madam Chair, I wish you wouldn't single him out. I think this is inappropriate. The fact of the matter is that the director and I had a conversation. His day that particular weekend started very early in the morning on an emergency run, He also is on a 24/7 time clock, and there were some materials, because it took him into the northwest section of the city, that he needed to take care of some cleaning as a result of damage that was done from an animal that he recovered. So quite frankly, I think it was an appropriate time and appropriate use of what he was doing. And many of us are on 24/7 calls, and the fact of the matter is, when he transports animals, as does all the ordinance officers, into, I think that's Westland on Marquette Street, you're going to have them traveling into other communities.
Which is understood, Mr. Mayor. All due respect, I didn't single anybody out
Well, you
by
did,
name.
but you did by
I
him.
described a vehicle which was clearly posted on a page, which is not singling anybody out, however you did when you named the person's position. So again, I think a simple explanation is all we were asking, since that is a city asset paid by taxpayer dollars, is a fair question. So it is not an overstep or inappropriate, with all due respect.
Should he have left the animal?
Okay, point of order, please. Point of order.
And if I may continue, Madam Chair, please? If I may, please?
Yes,
Thank you,
please.
Madam Chair. The question I have is, the Plant Moran audit showed the $680,000 on the balance sheet for Act 345. And my question is, what account is that money in right now?
Comptroller Vance, can you please answer that?
Well, if you want money in account.
I mean, point of order, we are asking Comptroller Vance.
The accountant for the city.
If she is, then she's,
Off the top of my head, I mean, we have to look at the records. This is something that should be brought to our attention, so we should look at the records. How do we know that off the top of our
And there
heads?
were emails, so thank you. And I'm asking a question for follow-up. If somebody would reply to emails, I wouldn't have to do this.
I didn't get an email, so but.
I didn't get an email.
Yeah.
Would you please, are you able to answer? Or
Well,
would you like me to
what's on
resend
the
it?
balance sheet is telling you that there was an excess money. That would have to be in the bank account that the Act 345 funds is collected. That's where
So
the
my
money.
question, I guess-
Without knowing
okay, all
positive.
right, point of order, please. One person.
I would like to finish my questioning without being whatever you want to call that kind of aggression I'm hearing.
I would not hear that question.
I hear
Okay,
it.
point of order, please.
The question should be, this money is on the balance sheet from the audit under Act 345, which is a restricted account for police and fire pension system. Can we all agree on that? With that being in mind, if that is an extra, I don't know if it's an accumulation, which is my next question, or if it's for that fiscal year the audit is done, but at what point do you move it to the 115
Well,
trust
the
fund?
115 trust contribution was made in August, if you recall, which was after the audit date. And so so I never saw any emails. So, I mean, it would have been easier for us to answer the question, at least for myself, if I had a chance to look at the records, right? And I didn't bring those records because this question was not posed to me prior to. Okay, so that's not hostility. That's just saying, how can you ask us specific questions without us giving the opportunity to look at the records? That's it seems common sense to me.
Well, it is
Okay,
common
and so,
sense. Okay.
so the contribution to the 115 trust occurred in August, if you recall. And so I'd imagine some of those funds would have been transferred to the trust in August, after the audit, because the audit is as of June 30th.
So again, my question goes back to that amount of what is a surplus, if you will. It's a balance on the balance sheet.
There has been a contribution to the trust, to 115 trust in
It goes
August.
to 115 trust fund where it should be. That is the answer?
I can't say those specific dollars. As you remember, tax dollars are coming in. The 115 trust contribution was over $1 million. So I guess, yes, some of that money was part of that contribution.
Very good, thank you. That was a simple question, simple to get out of the way. So thank you.
Thank you.
Now, oh goodness, let's try to move on. One more question, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Now, the previous council meeting, and I see family members and individuals here who had come forward and brought an incident, alleged incident, Two, and the reason I use alleged because until investigation is done, and I did recommend it be done by an outside independent source, do we have an update? And this is regarding the handling and detention or detaining of a resident and alleged treatment. Do we have an update on that, please? Thank you.
The investigation's continuing, the internal review is continuing, and we're proceeding as expeditiously as possible.
Do you have outside sources just so it's not an internal on your own?
No.
Why would you not have an external third party because of the lens of conflict where it'd be like investigating yourself? You see what I'm saying? All due respect.
Well, no, I disagree with that. I believe our police department, our investigators are fully capable of being unbiased and handling the matter in a professional way in which everybody will be satisfied with the answer.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair.
Councilman Bazey? Oh, Councilman Constant, you were right.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to thank our Congresswoman Debbie Dingell and Rashida Tlaib, the Army Corps of Engineers, State Senator Betty Jean Alexander, and the mayor for the presentation about the retention basin. Though it's not a complete solution, that retention basin being built on the incinerator site with federal money by the Army Corps of Engineers will be, a major help to the flooding problem with Ecorse Creek in the south end.
Councilman Bazey?
Few items. First one, there's the restaurant on Inkster and Ford Road, Alamere. I don't know how long the bus stop's been there, but people are actually taking the bus. They're bringing their own thing, like chairs, cinder block, and they're putting it right next to the street off of Ford Road or Inkster, waiting for the bus. So the owner keeps cleaning up the mess. It's costing him thousands of dollars in lawn that he keeps repairing, and also the trash that he keeps hauling. So is there a way, I don't know if the county has to be involved with this, that they can actually move the bus stop just, maybe a few feet away from the restaurant? I don't know if maybe Commissioner Kniezek could take that on.
Oh, boy. Aren't you glad you came
Your first
tonight?
assignment. Is it possible to ask, I don't know if I need to go to the county to answer that question? Yes, sir.
This is smart issue. Smart.
Thank you, Councilman. That is the first I've heard of that issue, so I appreciate you bringing it to my attention here at the meeting. I'd be happy to follow up with you after that. Obviously, we want to make sure that we're maintaining a quality space and a safe space for the people who are waiting for that bus. So I've had the opportunity in previous roles to work on some of these issues, bringing about the construction of facilities when we have inclement weather to make sure that people are comfortable. And then again, don't want to have that additional expense to Alamere. So after this meeting, I'd be happy to connect with you and head over there to Alamere and see what we can do to solve that problem.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Second item, I've gotten a few calls from senior citizens and also a couple families with low income. Their water bill is so high they can't afford to pay it, and they're having to borrow money to pay their water bill. Does the city have a program that they can actually, or fund that they can tap into for help if they have low income or senior citizens who can't afford their water bill because of the increase that was voted on by the council?
Mayor, can you answer? Oh.
I will. There is a program through the Great Lakes Water Authority called the WRAP program, WRAP, that is an income-based type of program, and they also work hand in hand with DTE.
Okay, can I refer them to you, Mr. Sami?
Sure, I can direct them in that direction.
Okay. Again, the vehicles, I know there was one vehicle was discussed, but there's also, I got a couple calls on other vehicles that are, spotted driving on the weekends or other cities. Again, section 18.3 in our charter prohibits, private use of city vehicles. So that's something we need to look at, Mayor.
Okay.
I don't know if there needs to be a GPS. I know a few residents already, they gave me a copy of some other municipalities putting GPS on their vehicles so you can track which vehicles are being used outside the city or outside working hours.
Okay, thank you.
The other item, Madam Chair, I know you sent an email to the mayor back in December with an attorney that can represent both of us, the council and the mayor. I haven't seen anything. I don't know if you've heard anything back.
No, I have not. Okay, any further discussion from the council table? Councilman Wenzel.
First of all, I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. Good turnout, taking time out of your busy schedules to come out here. And like I always do, I'd like to recognize our vets in the audience by having them stand up, please. Any veterans in the audience? Also, Councilman Bazzi, the vet, Marine.
Thank you.
And
Senate, Commissioner Kniezek, stand up.
County Commissioner Kniezek, that's a mouthful. Stand up.
Don't be shy. I know he's kind of a shy guy. Piggybacking on the veterans, I'd like to promote an event that's coming up at the Warren Valley Golf Course, pushing the golf course also. I'm doing two things at once here. It's the Greater Detroit Vets Expo, and the word VETS, V-E-T, stands for Veterans Employment Talent Search. It's Saturday, May 21st, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. And if anybody's looking for employment or they want to push their talents or something like this, would be a good opportunity for vets to show up and check this out. Real good program. Also, I would like to thank Director John Salmi. I had several conversations with him about the city employees out on the streets wearing safety equipment such as high visibility clothing. I witnessed several occasions where they were not, and it seems like the issue is he took it seriously, and there's I've seen several people out there wearing these safety vests, but I still see a couple more, and I want to thank you, John, for taking care of that. It's not something that I personally have a vendetta about. It's for their safety. That's all I'm concerned about, is our city employees' safety. And I'd like to have put on the agenda soon is our Recreation Director, Haddad, give us an update on the master plan. Maybe next meeting or a couple of meetings come up with something for us.
He's saying yes.
Yeah. And I'm kind of compelled to mention something about the town hall meeting on the flooding. I want to thank the people who have started it up and started the process, which that's all that was happening is the process has started. The funding hasn't even been approved yet, but it's a first step. But it's a shame that this is a 5-year process. For those who don't know, once it's approved, it's going to take around 5 years minimum before they start digging. So it's a shame that this wasn't done 10 years ago, and we could have been in the 5th year of this retention basin, working out all the bugs on it. Instead, we're still waiting another 5 years. So we're way behind on this, and it was nice to see something started, but I think it brought up more questions than answers. There's a lot more to do on this than that meeting. A lot of people had questions, and they were turned away at the end of the meeting. And I was called today by 2 residents that wanted me to mention the foul language that was used at the end of the meeting that was uncalled for. I'm just going to leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments from the council? Okay, at this time, we have County Commissioner Kniezek, who would like to say something.
Madam Chair, I just want to state that the foul language was by one of the people on the stage, not someone in the audience.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I guess first I'll say thank you, Councilman Bazzi. I sat down and I texted the owners of Elamir, so we're going to get rolling on that. I appreciate that. I did want to come by just as sort of a reintroduction for the folks in the audience, the folks who are watching at home. As you know, I think at this point it's about 3 or 4 weeks ago, our County Commissioner Diane Webb accepted a new job as the Superintendent of Redford Township. She resigned from her role in the County Commission, and on February 6th, the Commission appointed me to fill the rest of her role throughout the rest of the year. So in this capacity, I'll be representing Redford Township, all of Dearborn Heights, 3 square miles of Livonia. Obviously, had the great opportunity to serve my hometown here of Dearborn Heights previously as our state senator and our state representative, and really look forward to trying to carry on that legacy of service that Diane Webb set for us throughout her 11 years of service on the county commissioner here, so as the county commissioner. And so again, briefly, we operate a $1.6 billion budget downtown. Maintaining a high level of ethics, transparency, accountability is very important to me. I think that the same, again, level of service that Diane set for us those past 11 years, you can expect that same thing out of me as well. As folks also know, and we just tried to demonstrate here today, constituent services is very important to me as well. And so what I have told to all the members of Diane's staff is, they're going to have a job as long as I'm there. And so I'll just briefly turn around and point out Jay Lee Lynch, who is seated in the back here. Jay Lee is a very talented and very well-versed elected official in her own right as a city councilwoman and former mayor in Garden City. Jay Lee works with our office and his attendance here at the city council meetings. It gets tough when you're bouncing around between Livonia, Redford, Dearborn Heights. If I'm not able to be here, Jay Lee will be here, and I want you to consider her an extension of me in my office if you have any questions. And then downtown, again, keeping on Lisa Vowell-Childs. If you've ever picked up the phone, call downtown, you'll get Lisa. She's going to be remaining in place as well. I'll wrap up quickly, Madam Chair, by saying that if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please give me a call. I'll say my phone number twice in case you don't get it the first time. It's 313-224-0930. I have to write it down because I haven't memorized it yet. 313-224-0930. That'll take you to my office at the county. I'd be happy to entertain any questions, comments, or concerns that you have, but I'll kick that back over to you, Madam Chair, to conduct those questions.
Okay. Councilman Abdullah?
Just had a comment. Welcome back to Dearborn Heights.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Councilman Wenzel?
No. I don't.
You raised your hand. You got called on.
I did.
Okay. Councilman Constant?
Congratulations. I understand you may be continuing your education at a major business school with a major university in the area, so congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I made a point to, when I got elected to the House of Representatives at 25, you are quickly told how smart you are and how great you are and how good looking you are, and it's all BS. But a lot of people believe it when they go up to Lansing and try not to come back to their hometown. One of the things I've always tried to stress to other young elected officials is the need to advance your education. I was really great at giving out that advice and not following my own advice when I was in that elected capacity. And so, Councilman, to your point, yes, I did just get accepted to the University of Michigan to complete a Master's of Business Administration.
Much wiser choice than law school.
Pardon me?
I say a much wiser choice than law school.
I'll take that from you, sir, yeah. Thank you.
Hey, Councilman Wenzel, you raised your, are you sure this time?
I did think of something here. Not related to his current position, but David Kniezek, when I was running for city council, he came by my house and we sat at the kitchen table with my entire campaign staff, my daughter-in-law, and we talked about campaign strategies, and it was very beneficial in me getting elected. I want to thank you for that.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'll wrap up, Madam Chair, by saying that, again, not to steal any thunder from our county clerk here, we do have an election coming up on March 10th. I'm not here to tell anybody who to vote for, but it's one of the great cornerstones of our democracy, these free and open elections. And so I would encourage everybody to participate in the presidential primary. You'll also see, depending on where you live, a number of additional items that will be on your ballot. As it relates to the county, you will see a millage renewal for the DIA. Again, I'm not telling you how to vote on that, but I can tell you that I personally am supporting that. I see that the work that's done by the DIA in our community, the bringing of seniors downtown, the work that they're doing within our schools and with our students. And so I think the return on investment is great. I think the bang for your buck is great. And so again, I just want to encourage folks to go out and vote. And so to your point, Councilman Abdullah, I love this city. I've been here my whole life. My father's a retired police officer from this city. My mother got her start working as a lunch lady over at Crestwood Westwood High School where I graduated. So I like to think that we're ingrained in this community. I feel invested in our success. And since being appointed, I know I've had the opportunity to speak with each and every one of you individually on the council and through the administration. And so I just look forward to the partnership. I think we can get a lot of good things done at the county. And I look forward to working with you, and I look forward to working with the residents as well.
No, I was referencing you representing us again.
Oh,
Love
thank
it.
you. Thank you.
Love it.
Appreciate you. Good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now I will open up to more public announcements.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, I'm a little bit shorter than you, Dave. A couple of things I'd like to address. I'd like to thank the people responsible for bringing the FEMA back. I think that's a great idea. By the way, just to introduce myself, I'm Director Hashem. I'm the Director of CEDD and CDBG. We also work very hard, actually, ourselves on acquiring various grants. So we are in the process of working on a new $300,000 grant that's basically as the mayor and the administration had recommended to us. One of the things I'd like to mention is we are having our second public hearing on March the 11th. That would be on a Wednesday, which is 2 weeks from now, I believe, or 2 weeks and 1 day. The second public hearing, we will discuss our action plan, and we will talk about the budget that we are proposing for you, for the council and the administration to eventually sign off on and send it to the federal government. I would like to sincerely extend my invitation to the administration, all the city council members, and all the attendees in the audience. This is a great chance to find out where the $1.2 million grant that we already have will be going and how it will be spent. So if you're looking for transparency, this is the time to show up, and please ask any questions. After that, we will have 1 month of publishing that particular budget. And in May, we will bring it back to council and to the administration for support, and we can send it to the federal government. That's
What time on March 11th?
I apologize. Yeah, I wrote that down, but I didn't read it. It will be March the 11th. It's at 5 o'clock here at the council chambers.
Thank you.
And again, I would really like to have as many people and as many residents and as many officials as possible, because this is a $1.2 million that comes straight from the federal government to us that we administer. And hopefully you guys will agree with the way we do it. And I would ask for your support at that point. That's all I have to say. I want to thank you all and wish you all a great evening and a good night.
Thank you.
Welcome back, David Knizik, our new
County Commissioner.
Commissioner. Where's County Commissioner?
Okay, next.
Good evening, everybody. Brian Haddad, Parks and Recreation Director. I was just informed via text message from one of our senior coordinators that the District 7 school district will be closed tomorrow due to the weather, so which that means the Eaton Center, Senior Center will be closed. I did just do a little bit of research real quick while I had a quick minute. It does say on the Channel 4 website that Crestwood School District is closed as well. So with that being said, the Berwyn Senior Recreation Center will be closed as well tomorrow. So thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Any further public announcements?
I was waiting for the library guy. He usually goes ahead of me. This is Nancy Breyer. I just want to thank the people that came last month, our first responders. It was an excellent meeting, and we do have another meeting this Thursday, 7 to 9, at 3335 South Beach Daily, and that's the South Dearborn Heights Civic Association, but everybody's invited. We do entail Southfield all the way to Inkster Road and Michigan Avenue to Van Born, but everyone's welcome. And one thing that will be discussed will be the superintendent for Westwood Community Schools will be explaining the sinking fund request of 3 mills that will be on the March 10th ballot. And then we also have the privilege of having our own city clerk, Walter Przewitz, who will answer questions about the ballot and anything you have or are concerned about. He'll be there with a fax. And I do believe we're having a pre-treatment where you show that the machines are working. I don't remember the date. It was in the newspaper. Where you test.
We're having our public test tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.
If you want to see how they work, this is your chance. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m.?
I don't think the public.
Okay. And then I believe Jack McIntyre's Neighborhood Association is tomorrow night at 6:30, St. Sabina's, on Ann Arbor Trail near Beach Daily.
Yes, on Ann Arbor Trail between Telegraph and Beach Daily.
Okay, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other public announcements? This time, I'll open it up to public comments. State your name and limit it to 3 minutes, please.
Hello, my name is Eleni Shastani. I live at 4165 Bedford Street. I am here to discuss a water bill that I have been fighting for the past over a year almost. This water bill was initially $13,749.59. It is currently $12,600 and some dollars. This house that we purchased was right next door to my parents. We purchased this home. It was a foreclosed sheriff's deed, like a sheriff's sale. We purchased it, we tore it down. When we purchased it, we initially looked at the payments that were due, and nothing was remotely close to $14,000. So we went ahead and bought the property, thinking nothing of it. We had torn it down, we rebuilt, we built a new house, improved the block, improved the area with that. It just seems absolutely insane that a water bill, I mean, we all have similar homes. We all do. There's no way that it can be $14,000. And if it is, we're just normal people. Like, you know, like how can that be? You know, I understand water is a commodity. I understand that, and we've gone back and forth. I have written a letter to the mayor. We have discussed it in detail. I have spoken to Chrissy as well. I have spoken to a few of you here, and I understand, you know, where everyone is coming from. However, it does not seem just or right.
Madam Chair.
14,000, and we have never. My parents included, myself included, we have never faltered on any payments, tax-wise, bill-wise, anything to do with that. We are not, you know, we have had everything. And also it shows that we did pay towards it. I have papers here as well initially along
May I?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm her mother, I'm sorry. And like we went back and forth, like we said, with you, with the city, and they decided it was unacceptable. I understand it was 14,000, but still they agree, we can pay 3,000 and the $500 which we paid, and they put Kate's paid. And the other day we received a paper said, we have a balance for $12,000, and that will affect our taxes for the new home.
It said that the bill was $12,249.59, and if it's not paid, then it would be a 25% penalty towards our taxes.
Like, which we don't understand, if you see it, when we purchased the house, 2 months before, it was $200, if you see it. In 2 months, it went 14,000. How it's possible to be like a lake around neighborhood?
You could run a Great Lakes lodge, you know, Great Wolf Lodge, and it couldn't be $14,000.
In 2 months, how it would be possible? How city permitted don't see it? The difference from 200, it went in 14,000. They don't see it. But where was going that water from one normal house? It wasn't a business.
The thing is we lived right next door. We lived right next door. So if there was to be a leak, there would have been flooding. And the lady next door to the other side of the house is also somebody that we have known our whole lives, you know?
City took 3 months to come to close the water.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Quite honestly, when you built the house, did you have a final reading and have the utilities shut off during the construction of the home?
Yeah, they came and shut it off, yeah.
So there was a final reading. So this bill occurred after you turned it back on, or was there when you turned it?
Can I give a little Can I get a little synopsis of what I've learned? So this goes back to 2017. These folks bought the home. The last time it was read was 2017 of December. The next time we read it was in March. And in that period, it had used 1,270 units of water. 1 unit of water is 750 gallons. What was happening is the line broke inside the home and was going right into the sewer. It never surfaced on the outside. On the 6th, when the water department read it, they notified the water crews that they went out there on the 7th and dug it up and disconnected it. So to say that it can't happen, it can happen. It's unfortunate, but the usage is there. So, what happened when they bought the home on the title search or check the liens and stuff like that, that I can't speak to, but this has been out there for a couple of years. And I spoke to the young lady the other day, and I called her back yesterday and explained it to her that it was physically impossible for that much water to go through the meter, but if you'd like, it can sit down and do the math with you, and it is possible, and unfortunately, it did happen.
Now, when did you purchase the home?
It was 2017.
2017?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry.
No,
18.
2018.
What month?
May.
So that's after this, okay.
Yes.
So that would be, have you checked with your title search company?
Yes, but plus, like I said, when we did, they agreed, and we paid the $3,500. They said, they would close everything, and they put it paid. If you see the bill, we paid it, everything, $3,000. If you pay that, and they will let us do the house, and we did it. We paid it, and everything was closed. We will not owe anymore.
Okay, all right, we're at the limit of time. I'll let Councilman Constant remark, and then Councilman Abdullah. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, what you need to do is when you purchased the house or purchased the land, did you get title insurance? I don't need to know if you did or if you didn't, but if you did, you need to make a claim against your title insurance for that lien that popped up, and that's what you have title insurance for.
We took it in action. It was in action.
I don't believe we did have title insurance.
Yeah,
it was
Councilman Abdullah?
So one of the negatives, one of the great things about buying a property on a sheriff's sale is you get a great deal. One of the negative things of purchasing a property on a sheriff's sale, you're buying everything as is, and we're not talking about the water here, so just to clarify. You're buying everything as far as any title issues, any possible backwater, any possible back tax. I mean, you're taking everything on, and that's why you get such a great deal. What should have happened, and I don't know what you did or didn't do, is right after you did the final water reading, because you planned on building a home there, you should have had that water shut off right off the bat.
It was shut off when we bought it, sir.
Okay.
It didn't happen. That water had been shut off in March. We bought it in May, sir.
It was shut off. The previous read was in December of 17. The next reading cycle was in March of 2018. The water department discovered that it had a leak because the home was vacant, was leaking into it. The next day, we shut it off. They purchased the home 2 months later.
The title company will not reimburse you, I can tell you right now.
We purchased it in May. Okay, everything like this, but by going back and forth, we wrote with the city, we went back and forth.
Is there anything
they agreed that we will pay $3,500. And you have the bill in front of you, which we paid it, and it was paid. And they said, okay, they will let us do the construction, and we will not owe anymore, nothing in the water bill. Like, this was like a deal. It was like, we did it, we paid it, and they said, we don't owe nothing more. They said, pay, they put the stamp.
Doesn't it seem a little ridiculous, like $12,000?
No, they're going back in 12,000.
At this point, we are over the 3 minutes, but I'm going to ask you one thing. Do you have the paperwork stating that if you paid the $3,500?
No, we give it a paid.
No, it says paid on there.
Yes, it says paid.
So it was a verbal agreement?
Yeah.
Okay.
It said paid. We paid it, and put the paid thing.
Mayor, is there anything we can do in regards to this?
As we had indicated to her, and I feel when you have somebody who loves the city so much and they want to come back and live next to their relative, I mean, it really gets you emotionally where you want to help the individual. What we indicated to them, and I've indicated because there's more than one party out there that have large water bills, is that the mayor does not have the authority to write off a water bill. So therefore, I cannot write this off. And
I'm so sorry, Mr. Mayor. If you had known this, then why did we go back and forth so many times? I'm so sorry. I don't mean to be mean or to be upset, but I am upset because this is $12,000. Does anybody else have $12,000 to throw around? Like, I'm just saying.
And my daughter is suffering in this moment.
And it's just, it's hard.
I took her close to me because she is a little child, to help her to raise the child.
It wasn't.
She's separated. She's alone.
Okay.
Like, I give her my home. Or that she can stay close to me, I can help her.
If we had known about the outstanding...
Okay.
I'm just trying.
Okay, Councilman
Two other
Constant?
things is you might check with the Great Lakes Water Authority about the RAP program, depending on your income, and then about homeowners insurance, because if you had a pipe break and a loss, if you had homeowners insurance, you might make a claim.
But that home was in Brooklyn, or it wasn't ours at the
It was
time.
before they purchased the home.
As Councilman Abdullah aptly put it, you got a bargain, but you bought everything.
But if we had known about that extraneous,
Did you do a check to see if what the water bill was when you purchased
It
it?
was $200 we saw. That's what they give us.
No, it was if you go down, it's further. He's adding it right now.
All right, I can check that.
Yeah.
I can, I'm gonna,
Said we don't know what it was all that.
give me your number after the
I will.
meeting.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank
I
you.
appreciate
Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Council Chair.
Corporate Counsel?
Yes, excuse me, could I ask you a question? Yeah. Did you buy it from a tax foreclosure sale, or was it through a...
It was a bank, yeah.
Bank, okay, all right.
Yes,
thank
yes,
you.
sir.
Sheriff's sale.
Yeah, sheriff's sale. Yeah, it was downtown. Yeah.
I knew you bought it on an auction, I was just trying to
Yes.
confirm the type. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me again. Last time I was here, I spoke on an incident regarding a schizophrenic father and his unfortunate run with the Dearborn Heights Police Department. Today, I'm just going to be asking some questions, some follow-up questions from last time. I made 3 demands for the police report, one for the video and audio, and then the last was I wanted to know what the mental illness policies regarding the training of officers in compliance with the ADA Americans with Disabilities Act was. So first one I want to ask is, have any of you seen the incident report? Nobody?
no.
Has the police chief even seen the incident report?
Chief, would you like to reply?
The police report has been filed, and yes, I have seen it.
And I haven't received anything regarding the FOIA or, I'm the attorney on the case, I believe.
I understand that. You filed a FOIA request, correct?
Yes.
What was the date that you were going to receive the FOIA by? You were given a date.
He was charged, what, was it 2 days ago?
No, I'm asking you a question. What date were you to receive the FOIA by?
What was it, 15 days?
Do you recall the
You guys got
date?
I don't know the date. You guys got the extension, though.
Okay, so has it, if you don't know the date, do you have it in your paperwork? I mean, we're going to fulfill your FOIA request within the time parameters that are allotted.
All right, that's fine. Anyways, have any of you seen or obtained the video or audio?
No.
Has the police chief? You can stay up there if you want, by the way.
Okay, thank you. I have not seen the video of the incident.
You guys, who's doing the internal investigation exactly?
The police department.
Do you think that they are the ones that should be doing the internal investigation?
I do.
Okay. So, actually, the other day I sent my assistant to get another FOIA. It was Thursday, February 20th at 2 p.m. There were 2 clerks. They stamped the receipt saying that they received the request on February 24th, which is yesterday. And I literally have a photo of the date and time next to the stamps. I mean, how can they even explain that?
Say that again, you confused me. You sent 2 of your clerks to do what now?
So I sent my clerk to get a FOIA.
Okay.
They went to go get the FOIA. It was on February 20th at 2 p.m. So those are business hours, correct?
What was February 20th? What day?
Thursday.
Yes.
Business hours? So why did they stamp it for February 24th? They said we received it on February 24th.
I don't know. I'd have to look into it.
Okay. Their names are Darla and Michelle. I mean, like, that. How can we, what is that?
I don't know, what is it? Is it a mistake? I mean,
It was
what
definitely
are
not
you
a
trying?
mistake, you know?
Okay.
Because she was being awfully rude to my clerk as well.
Okay.
Because when we brought up the name, they're like, oh, like they got really upset about it.
Okay, we have a formal complaint process with the police department, which you're more than welcome to fill out a complaint on, and we'll look into it.
Do we really though? Come on. I mean, there have been so many complaints about the complaint process. We have no police oversight. What are we doing about police oversight, by the way? Are we doing anything? We need to do something about it. Can we, I mean, here, let me tell you what we should do, okay? If it means anything, you guys, is first off, we need to put like a box in the police station, and basically it needs to be reviewed by a city official that's appointed by the majority decision between city council. Something like that. Because this is ridiculous. I mean, how am I going to send my clerk to get a FOIA? They stamp it for Monday. It was on a Thursday at 2 p.m. That makes no sense. It's ridiculous. I mean, I've been waiting for these FOIAs for so long. I did send in a FOIA the same day for a different case. They sent me everything back. I know you guys can say that, oh, we got the 15 days, but come on, really. Like, I just got it like what, last week? And I sent them at the exact same time, footage and video. I mean, whatever. What's the training for the officers that you guys are having at this department?
In regards to what?
Mental illness.
There's a significant amount of training that goes on through mental health awareness workshops that are put on. We have virtual academy, different things that the officers are involved in.
Counselor, are you intending to bring civil litigation against the city?
I mean, I can.
Okay, well then, basically, my recommendation is that the police chief not answer your questions if you're going to be bringing some sort of
I never said
litigation.
I was. I said I can.
Okay. Well, but the point is that you've made it pretty clear that you intend to end up bringing some sort of a claim, in which case my advice to my client is to not to end up answering questions any more than if I was to sit down with your client and end up asking him a bunch of questions about the incident that ended up taking place in terms of doing a review for a warrant request, right?
I'm not
I mean, that would be
asking-
considered an improper ex parte contact, wouldn't it?
I don't believe so, because I'm not asking about the incident. I'm asking about the policies that
But
you guys have for the mental
okay.
illness.
Well, then, if you want to end up doing that, then submit a FOIA request. You already have done so.
So you guys can
and
backdate
if it's not exempt material, then it will end up being provided in the normal course. Meanwhile, with respect to what's going on with regard to this issue, my recommendation is going to end up being to be very careful with regard to this. I think you know that there are some additional things that have ended up happening lately with respect to your client. I would hope that you would know that.
And we'll
And
see where that
that
goes.
essentially, you know, if we want to end up using this public forum in order to discuss claims, you should be very careful about what you end up doing with regard to that, because it opens up everything about your client potentially to being looked at in detail with respect to what has taken place. And we know that there are some issues with respect
Okay,
to
at this time, I'm not going to allow this to go any further. I just don't need threats back and forth. This is a city council meeting, and he didn't come here. It's his.
I'm trying to protect
It doesn't matter.
I'm asking about a policy.
He has his
Where did
freedom
this
of
come
speech, and I'm not going to stop him from that. If he wants to continue, he can.
I mean, because is anyone going to answer if there's a policy in place? Because we started going on and on about a vague workshop. I don't even know what that was. How do we even authenticate it? Can I authenticate it, Counselor?
I'm sorry?
Can I authenticate that there's actually a workshop or whatever it was?
You can make FOIA requests for any sort of information with regard to this. If it's not exempt, then it will end up being responded to in due course.
What about
if
a
it is
subpoena?
exempt, then it won't end up being responded to.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there any further public comment? Say your name, hi, and limit to 3 minutes.
Hills Coulter, 6644 Colonial, and I'm here on behalf of my parents. We live on a corner with a big old tree that is hanging over the house. They came over a couple of years ago to cut down the tree, or trim the tree. They did, but there's one big branch that's hanging over the house. And my parents are kind of concerned about it and everything, and I was wondering what I can do as far as like maybe having somebody come out and take a look at it, because now the sidewalk is all jacked up out of shape. People are tripping.
Okay. Director Selmy, can you talk with him after the meeting?
I'll come right now outside if you'd like.
Okay, I'll do that.
Thank you. That's the person you need to be in touch with. Any further public comment? State your name and limit it to 3 minutes.
Stephen Chisholm from State Representative Jewel Jones' office. Phone number is 517-373-0849. I just wanted to extend, or I guess because some of your school board officials already know, but I just want to make everyone aware that March is Reading Month and it's coming up really quickly. So if you care for Representative Jones to come out and read to the students or any elected officials, please make it known. But specifically our office, I'm extending that to you guys because some of the schools have called us already. So I just want to make sure everyone is known. And to our friend from Garden City and the neighboring community, as an elected official as well, that offer goes for you and all the communities, of course, that Representative Jones represents. And if you guys have any questions or concerns for me at this time, I'm willing to take those. And if not, that will be all.
Thank you.
All right, you all have a nice night.
Thank you.
Suzanne Todd, Academy Street. I just want to thank Lisa Hicks, Councilwoman Lisa Hicks Clayton, for putting on that meeting on the 19th. I'm sorry I wasn't there. I've been fighting this Ecorse Creek flooding for 54 years, but we had a family emergency, and family always takes over anything. But I do want to thank you because you were the force behind getting as far as we've gotten. I know it's very, very disconcerting for the residents in 48125, especially those that flood, that we don't even know if it's going to be approved. But I've got to tell you, 54 years I've been fighting this, and this is the first time we have even gotten this far. So I know it's terrible when you have sewage water in your house, and I don't know what else to say, but this is the furthest that we have ever been. And Councilwoman Hicks Clayton was the force behind getting all this done, and I thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay.
I agree.
State your name and you have 3 minutes.
Would you allow me to give the mayor a FOIA request?
Okay.
I don't want to.
It's okay.
Here, I'll take a copy of it, no problem.
You can be rude as much as you want. Good evening again, Zuhair Abdelhaq. I try as much as I can when I come up here to be polite. But at one point, I'm not going to be, Mr. Mayor, and you will not like it at all. You talked about you sent the mayor email asking him basically to find legal counsel for the city.
Yes.
Your email was the papers you wrote it on or the electronic media you wrote it on. You need to pass a resolution. And you need to vote on it tonight to force him to follow the direction of the city council. Otherwise, he's going to come on the 14th of April and he'll tell you, I'm not going to do anything. And nothing against Mr. Mayatki. He could be the next one, he could be the lowest bidder, he could be the best one. But that's what you need to do with a resolution. A second thing, I am submitting a FOIA to the city because we went back and forth so many times about how the PEG money was mishandled and how it was misused, which is violation of his office. Because he took money and used it as cash flow, and he never returned it with the interest which he's supposed to put it back in restricted fund. That restricted fund, the law is clear, and if you can tell me if I am wrong, John, please say so. The money was never returned to the PEG. And if the mayor, again, I'm going to ask him to tell me to my face and to this whole city, did he use this money for cash flow or not? Did he return it or not? I am giving him the chance after chance after chance. It's time for him, if he would like, to tell me and tell you that he did not misuse the money.
Mr. Mayor, would you like to answer that?
I don't understand his question, and I am not going to respond to him.
It's okay.
He's not going to respond, so
Second
continue
thing,
on.
I did find out there was overcharge to the taxpayers in the city as administration fee on the Act 345, retiree health care of excess of $600,000 a year. And when I went through the numbers back to 2005, I found out in excess of $2,800,000, which was overcharged to all of you, and it was put back. I'm not saying it was stolen, but it was overcharged, which means taxation without representation. I need all these documents because I want from their office the same document so I can confirm those numbers, which I believe they are right, and he has been overtaxing the residents, and he needs to stop this. Thank you.
Thank you. He was banging up. Any?
Yes, I wanted to, a couple of things I'd like to talk about. Number one is I attended a study session here 3 weeks ago where we talked about replacing the treasurer. And we all know that the charter has requirements for somebody to run for the treasurer's office, which are very limited. But this board had open deliberation and came to a consensus that certain requirements were put on the treasurer's thing that the council wanted to see for the position. And I was really disappointed to see that those disappeared, because I believe that the treasurer's position requires somebody to have qualifications, and that in the qualifications that were discussed by this board 3 weeks ago at a study session and that were agreed to by the board, you know, there wasn't a motion because it was a study session, but it was consensus that they would ask for a bachelor's degree and or some treasurer office experience. And then all of a sudden that disappeared, and I was very disappointed. Yes, the voters later on in November can vote anybody. I hope the voters would take the time to look at the qualifications of the candidates that run. But I think this council set themselves up to a higher standard, because you guys have a fiduciary responsibility to appoint somebody who is of the ability to do the job and keep the money of the city safe. And I think somebody with the qualifications that you did have, which was a degree in finance or accounting or some treasurer's office experience, were very appropriate. And I was disappointed to see that they took them off and that you would let anybody go and come before you to be appointed. So with that, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gary Mayaki, Corporation Counsel, Plainfield Street. As to the last item that was just addressed by the treasurer, I've heard things through the grapevine with respect to some issues that have been raised, and I wanted to make sure that they were addressed. I would also note that discussions with regard to your deliberations should be taking place in public meetings to comply with the Open Meetings Act. I've heard that there are some concerns about listing additional qualifications or potential qualifications, and that would not be legal. That is incorrect. There would be no problem in terms of legality. This body has the ability to select people and to end up saying what kind of qualifications it's looking for with regard to an appointment. I'd also note that there was some alluding to the editor's note with regard to durational residency requirements, namely the Green versus McKean case. It's a 1971 decision. I mean, it's very, very obsolete. I gave an opinion with regard to these issues back in 2004 that has only been strengthened by more recent case law, which I've updated, even though no one has requested that I do so, but I figured that it would be a good idea for me to point that out. I mean, ultimately, is this body's decision with regard to who ends up being appointed. However, the criteria that are being used should be discussed just as they were before anything ends up being changed. And some of the discussion has not been accurate. The final thing is, I would like to note that, and this is with no disrespect to Councilwoman Hicks Clayton for her efforts, but the mayor was the one who ended up doing the drain code petition, something that had never ended up being done before. Those of us who were part of the administration ended up doing that. That's what got the ball rolling with respect to anything that's going on in Ecorse Creek. That's what allowed us to end up pushing to end up getting the consent judgment. The mayor deserves credit on this point. Council Chair Barron, before he left, noted that this was one of the things that he came to realize and appreciate in terms of the mayor's efforts. And I think that everyone should recognize the mayor for his efforts with regard to the Ecorse Creek. Thank you.
All due respect, Corporate Councilor Miyake, I don't think anyone, and I can't speak for other people, but I don't think anyone was trying to take away from the consent judgment and the work that was done. I've always fully acknowledged that publicly as well as on social media, and has given credit where it's credit due. I think the residents, though, not to put words in someone's mouth, but they were talking about the town hall itself, which again was a year in the making, and I will honestly tell you who was on those calls, but I'm not going to get into that because I don't care about that.
Yeah, well, and respectfully, I wasn't trying to say anything contrary to your efforts, and I applaud your efforts, but frankly, there have been so many efforts over so many years with the mayor basically being in the position where he ended up pushing this issue, and those of us who've been part of his administration pushing the issue and getting the consent judgment that we were able to get that gives the city the leverage to basically be able to do things with respect to this. So
thank you very much.
Point.
Public comment, your name in 3 minutes.
Dearborn Heights. Again, Councilwoman Hicks Clayton, thank you so much for doing that town hall meeting. And as you guys, most of you guys are aware, I've been working on the first and the second grant that you guys were assumed by administration that we almost lost the second grant. I'm making this as a statement. I don't want to hear no argument, no response, no nothing from nobody. I'm completely fed up from the mayor's assistant, Christina Laszlo. I've been attacked by her several times this evening while I was trying to take a private conversation with both Lieutenant McQueen and Mashnup in the hallway.
Thank you.
I had to make a quick, wise decision to back away from her because she came up to the hallway trying to set me up with another argument. From this minute going forward, if she ever comes toward me in any way, I'm taking all my right and proceeding with all legal action against her and the city of Dearborn Heights, who's still hiring people like that.
Thank you. Any further comment? At this time, do I hear a motion to end?
Motion to adjourn.
All those, supported by Constant, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Meeting adjourned.